Okay guys, this is the Delaware Welcome Center right off I-95. It says Endless Discoveries, whereas Florida says Endless Summer. And it looks like they renamed it to the Biden Welcome Center because President Joe Biden was elected last year. That wasn't always like that. And we're going in the Welcome Center. It's a standard rest area, but it has a Starbucks and some cafes and eateries, and of course bathrooms. It's the northbound entry. Okay guys, and at the Delaware rest area off I-95 are these Tesla charging stations. There's probably about 10 of them. They are a regular infrastructure component for electrical vehicles that you are seeing more and more in the United States of America. Tesla tends to have the most, but there are some generic charging stations they have. And there is a Class B van parked right next to them. So if you had an electrical vehicle, again, you could stealth camp at some of these charging stations depending on their restrictions. I have seen restrictions where you can only park at a charging station for 3 hours. There's a sign, 3-hour limit charging. So you would have to make a note of that. And if you ever had to start your vehicle and leave very quickly, you have to remember you're attached to an electrical outlet, so you couldn't just start your car and go without getting out of your car. If you ever, like, someone knocked on your door and you wanted to just start your car and leave, when you're hooked up to an electrical charging station, you got to unhook, you know. So that's just something I think about too, you know, because you always try to think about your exit strategy. But again, this is at the Delaware Welcome Center here right off I-95. Okay guys, so we're gonna head south on I-95. You see you got the leaves there changing colors, and this is part of the journey back down to Florida. Again, how does it feel to be on the road? Well, for me it's lost most of its excitement because I've done it so much, and for me it's just a pathway now to get to spend time with my mother and avoid hurricane season or experience fall season up north, and then before winter comes head back down to Florida. So 90% of the year I'm in Florida, 10% in New Jersey. That's how it's been for the past few years pretty much. And you know, being on the road just wears you out, so it's fun to break up your routine, but it's also very wearing. You need to be a little bit disciplined to deal with the road. Maintaining a structured day, keeping your mind from being depressed or scared. I mean, it's everything. It's the same thing you would face in the house, you know. The only difference with being on the road is that when you're on the road, it forces you to do. Because when you're in your house, you could just take a nap, you could just slosh around. The good thing about being in a house or being centered in a community, I would say, even if you're not going to have a house, just being a local nomad, is that, you know, you don't have to adapt too much. You get into a rhythm of the day, and that's healthy. You know, the part of the road is you have to push yourself, which is also healthy because it makes you grow and expand. And so what are we searching for? We're searching for balance. But certainly, you know, when you see a beautiful skyline and you see the leaves changing colors like you do in this video, you would tend to over glamorize it. But certainly, you know, when you get stuck in a certain routine that you're comfortable with, you would tend to justify it. So again, sometimes in life we have to push ourselves, and sometimes in life we have to discipline ourselves to enjoy the healthy routine of a flow around one community. But when you stay on the road and you're constantly uprooting your life, as far as if you move around very often, after 3 to 5 years, that gets taxing on your mind and on your body. For me, I would still say the road is not for the very elderly. However, there's some people in their 60s, 70s, they do it and they enjoy it. So I don't know, but either way, it is a beautiful skyline this morning. Still, I'm not really into this trip. especially not till I get closer to Florida. It's like everything. Takeoff is tough, and the middle is messy. It will feel good once I'm back in Florida, but then I'm going to have to get back in that flow. You know, it's like, you know, I didn't want to come to New Jersey per se, right? But I definitely wanted to see my mom. But then I got into the flow of New Jersey, and it was good fall weather, and then I got used to it, and then you get comfortable. And then as soon as you start to get into that rhythm, then I have to uproot my life, right? And I hit the road and go through all these states. And then when I get back to Florida, then I got to get back in that flow. And so like that constant uprooting is what makes the road not viable, not doable for most people. Not that I don't want to say most people can do it, because I don't want to discourage. I just want to say that over time, you know, most people don't want to push themselves like that. They want the excitement of new, and for some extent that will help them. But that constant push will probably not work for them. Most people are lazy. I mean, and most people don't want to deal with that. You know, I think about, there was a movie, an old Western movie, and there was two cowboys getting ready to hit the road on their horse, getting ready to travel. And they had a dog, and the dog had got old. And they had said to the dog was like excited. He wanted to go with the two people. But the guys were like, hey, you know, talking to the dog like, nah, you're too old for this trip. It wouldn't be good for you. You wouldn't like it. And I think about that. It's like, you know, as much as you may want to go, when you get to a certain age, it's tough. But I don't want to discourage older people. I'm just trying to say I think about that, okay? So I want to share that with you. Also want to share these sites. Look, it is a beautiful site. It is nice. Again, to see the reward of new, which is difference, which gives you a broader perspective, which brings creativity, which brings inspiration. It's certainly true that, you know, if we stay too comfortable in one area, inspiration, creativity dies, because there's no need for innovation. There's no need for adapting. It's certainly true that if you don't build up a foundation and you're always adapting, you're never centered, you know, and that can knock you off balance in a negative way too, you know. So there is that balance, you know. But as we get ready to transition to another state, you know, Delaware is very small in landmass. Then you go to Maryland, Baltimore, and then you go through Washington, D.C., and then through Virginia. Once you get through Virginia into North Carolina, the traffic gets a little bit lighter. Roads get a little bit more narrow. And then it is a little bit longer of a drive through. South Carolina is a long drive. North Carolina, those states are pretty big. And then once you get to Georgia, you're knocking on Florida's door, and then you get to Jacksonville, and then now if you're going to South Florida like me, once you get to Jacksonville, you still got a few hours. So, you know, you got to break the day up in trips. You know, you can bull through it. I bulled through the trip one time just straight through one day. It's very taxing. You want to break the trip up in 2 days, 3 days, something like that, but I'm not sure. I left very early in the morning for this one, and so I'm kind of just playing it step by step, and just trying to get myself to the next step. You know, sometimes when you're nervous, scared, or just exhausted, you got to just get to the next step. I know the further I go forward, the more I'll adapt, the more I'll gravitate, because when you're leaving something you're used to, you're uprooting. So, you know, now you gotta go to new Starbucks, new places, deal with new people, new environments, and it's like, it's frustration, it's aggravation, it's not fun. Even though seeing new things is fun, it's exciting, and you know, that's what makes life. So there's a balance. You do want life to be lived. You don't want life to be in a parking lot. You don't want life to be static. It's just a balance, guys. The balance is the key to life, which we all struggle with, which society struggles with. This RV that we're approaching on our right-hand side is a rental RV from Cruise America. They also sell used RVs. So it has a Florida's license plate. They have a headquarters, I believe, in Orlando and Tampa. So this person probably rented that RV and is driving from up north, because they have hubs in New Jersey. I remember looking into it, where you can rent Like, you can rent an RV in New Jersey and then drive it to Florida and then drop it off at their hub there, like a rental car. So maybe that's something they're doing, because we're right at the beginning of snowbird season. At the end of October, November, people start to migrate south to Florida and southern states, mainly Florida. And even the Canadians now, that the Canadian border's back open after the pandemic, they will be coming down. And so the last big push of the snowbirds is after Christmas. There are some people that wait till after Christmas to come to Florida, and they spend the depth of the winter, January, February, March, which are the coldest months in the United States of America. They spend them in Florida, and they spend the holidays with their families. So that's one way to approach snowbird season 2, is get through the holidays, and then, you know, January 1st you're in Florida. January 1st through April 1st is the height of tourism season in Florida. So that's something that, but Florida's a big state. It has the capacity to handle a lot of people. Certainly there's high concentration of people in cities, Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, etc. But either way, guys, I just want to give you perspective on the journey in Delaware, headed through Maryland, going south to Florida. One step at a time, one day at a time is the name of the game when you're on the road and when you're in life. We all have to live our lives as best we can. Not easy, but you got to push yourself a little bit, and you got to sustain yourself. It's a balance. And either way, as we look at the leaves changing colors here, you can see them to the right, maybe a little bit to the left, but definitely to the right. You see the different vegetation starting to change color, which means the seasons are changing. Fall and winter is coming in, and the leaves are going to die off, and it's going to be winter. And then in spring, they'll come back alive. But in Florida, things will remain alive, because Florida is the warmest state in America, in the United States of America. Is that worth moving to? No, everyone's different. You got to figure out your life, but I'm just sharing, okay? Thank you for watching.